Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to our second annual policy summit. My name is Theo, I use they, them pronouns, and I'm one of the planners of the conference along with a few others who will be introducing themselves throughout the conference. First off, we wanted to welcome Pam Bennett, who is the Assistant Director of the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health with the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, who will be giving us a brief welcome before panelists introduce themselves. So everyone, please welcome Pam Bennett.
I am thrilled to represent the Department of Health and Human Services and the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health, and welcome everyone to today's summit. The summit is focused on improving systems associated with transition-aged youth. And for those that might not know, our office is responsible for the oversight of the public mental health and substance use systems. So that includes work at the legislature, it includes involves policy, and it involves oversight of the mental health and substance use programming across the state of Utah. To start things off, if you're comfortable, I want to see a show of hands of everybody or anyone who's ever felt uncomfortable or felt like they didn't fit in. Me too. Do you guys have my picture to show? I wanted to share this picture with you. This is a class of kiddos about 3 or 4 years old who are starting ballet. Can you guess which one is my granddaughter? When we took her to her first class, the teacher made it very clear that the girls would wear black with white, and my daughter, who's a very strong advocate for her children, oh, do I need to get closer? Okay. My daughter, who's a very strong advocate for her children, made it clear that we had bought the black and white outfit, and that her daughter would wear whatever she was most comfortable in as long as it didn't distract the class. And I'm fairly certain that the teacher figured peer pressure would have an effect and that this young lady would eventually move to black and white clothes. I can tell you it didn't happen. When you look at the picture, you might see an oddball or an outlier, someone who just doesn't fit in. What I see is an amazing girl who could be herself because somebody with power in her life let her be herself and created the space for her to do that. The importance of advocacy for those with mental health lived experience started in the 70s by those who survived horrific stays in psychiatric institutes. Those individuals banded together, sued the states, and won their cases. Because of this, 50 years later, the need for advocacy hasn't changed, but hopefully we've moved the dial a little bit. Now we know that youth faced increased health and behavioral health disparities. We know many mental health issues begin to manifest during those transition ages. Despite this, despite the earlier work of those with lived experience, despite the advocacy slogan of nothing about us without us, despite all this need, transition-aged youth are often not at the table. Those transition-age youth that are experiencing those mental health issues, they're not at the table when, or seen as experts when those who are making policy decisions and making legislative decisions are at work. We're really excited to see folks here today, both in person and online, who are ready to challenge the status quo. Going back to the picture of my granddaughter, when I went to pick her up after she'd been in the class for a few months, I noticed that there were several little girls dressed in black and white. There was my little girl dressed like a flower, and there was the teacher who was also wearing a colorful outfit. She'd at least changed one person. When I look at it with my granddaughter, I always tell her, to me the picture says, don't change to fit in because you were born to stand out. At the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health, we want to empower young adults, those experiencing homelessness, or those who have been involved in the system. We want to support them in pursuing their own dreams, their own passions, those things that they believe in regarding grassroots activism, education, and advocacy. We want to encourage youth advocates to have a leading role in shaping policy and creating sustainable change. To that end, I'm going to make a shameless plug. One of the councils that we have is, we call it UBAPAC. It's the Utah Behavioral Health Planning and Advisory Council. It's a group that meet monthly. It's a group that anyone with lived experience can join, or anyone who's working in the mental health or substance use arena as an advocate, as a provider, any of those. We had a meeting probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and after the meeting, a lady called me over and she said, why is it that we have 14% of Utah population as Hispanic, and there isn't one Hispanic person in this room? You're dealing with the mental health block grant, which is almost $11 million that goes out to the public health system. And it was not intentional, but she was right. So 5-6 years later, UBAPAC, or our Planning and Advisory Council, the chair and co-chair are both from Latino behavioral health. We made a change because someone pointed out the problem. That same Planning and Advisory Council needs youth in transition, and those who work with youth on the council. We don't have anyone. If we look in the room, there's nobody speaking for this population. So if anyone's interested, we can get you the information. We would love to have you join us once a month. We'll be hearing from panelists today from Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Utah. These are young adults with exceptional advocacy and policy skills. There are others here in the room and others online who also have thoughts and experiences that need to be shared. If folks like me are working with the legislature, writing code and rules alone, what you're going to get is what you've always had. If you want something better, something more appropriate, something that speaks to the needs of transition-age youth, we need you to share your experiences and share your voice. I hope you all have a fantastic and motivating summit. Thank you.